Okay, so yeah. So should I start from the first slide again?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, let me just. Okay, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, James. So today I'm here to talk about a project that we started during lockdown, and and it's been 6 crazy months with Limno doing it. So I think the core philosophy of this project is based on the fact that we want to basically create a community of local people instead of taking it global. So it's based on the principle of think locally and act locally. So like I'll start with this quick definition of community that somehow I've always resonated with. So, um, a community is a self sustaining group of individuals, right? Where we share concern for each other. We take actions to support each other, and whatever knowledge we are gaining from our peers in the community, we take that back and give it back to the world. So, being part of communities for 4 years, I think I found that connect with a lot of people. I think today my best friends are people I've met from the community. I gained a lot of knowledge, but I think I always looked out for how is it that I give back to the world which doesn't really have access to tech, the knowledge that I'm gaining from communities today. So that was always a concern. That was always something I wanted to do. I remember I did sessions for different groups of people. I think this is what I also said, that it's not like that you go to a stage one day and then suddenly you're addressing a crowd of 10,000 people. The more you talk to people from different age groups, from different backgrounds, and talk about the fact how much you love tech, the more you will see tech from a different perspective. So I think it's always about that. So yeah, I mean, I think Limno was my first step towards giving back to the community with something concrete that was not necessarily for developers. So um, I'll start with a quick general stats. Um, I think like one of the reasons why I would like to contribute to wetlands, right? Because I think when I studied about biology, when I studied about the animalia or plants, they were just text descriptions to me, and I was like, okay, why should I be bothered about it? Isn't this the job of biologists? Okay, you are telling me about environment. You're telling me about these different components, but it's more of a biology thing. I don't know how to go about it. So it was very difficult for me to get convinced that okay, fine, I should be involved in wetlands. So I think it was during last summer that we were just walking down the road, and then in front of a lake, uh, Sadeshna just pointed to me out that, hey, do you see the dragonfly? Do you know the more dragonflies are there near your lake, it actually determines that how the water quality of your lake is really good. And I was like, wow, that's something new. I never knew that dragonflies carried so much of importance, or this is the information that I would get from dragonflies. How is it that I was so disconnected from this world? So I think I was like, okay, fine, you know what, I want to do something on this area. And obviously I had no background, so it started with a few months of research. So I think it was way back in March this year, and we were just reading through the research papers, the different initiatives that were taken, and we kind of found out why wetlands were so important. So something that I did not know was the fact that the 7% of the world's surface actually constitute of wetlands, and the monetary benefits that we gain from the natural productivity and ecosystem services, from that approximately 45% of the benefits are from wetlands. uh, Sadly, even though these wetlands are so useful to us, we have lost almost 60% of them since 1990s. We have lost, we are on the verge of losing and have lost over 21% of different bird species from the world, 37% of mammals, 20% of freshwater fish species. So like when I went through this stats, it was actually discouraging, it was actually demeaning, and I was like, I did not know this was happening, and why was it that I did not care? And so I went back on studying that, okay, why is it that we do not know this is happening? So um I went back, I was going through the different apps that existed. So I think we did a study of over 35 apps that were there on Play Store and iOS, and around 15 papers that were written on different applications of machine learning, augmented reality, or just normal citizen science apps. So uh, something that we found out was the fact that, hey, I have information, there are a lot of apps that are giving me information of wetlands, but what I don't have, or what I don't find, is that it's not making me interested towards it. Like I am not keen to go and read about it until I'm pushed. So what can I do? uh, then I think I just found this one app, which was a wetland simulator. It was based on the US, and yeah, like trying that out, I sort of figured out, okay, this is interesting. This is like a game. This is something I really like to do, and it was letting me play with the components of wetlands. So I was like, okay, why can't we do something on these lines? If this is something that is interesting me, being a non-bio student, I think I would really like to try that out. And yeah, and then I sort of did a little research on augmented reality, and then we found out, this is really interesting, that uh, the Pokemon Go app that was released in 2017, uh, and which was one of the most popular AR apps, it actually increased people's walking activity, and people are walking for like 1 or 2 kilometers per day searching for the different Pokemons, and they were not complaining about it. That is how much they were engaged within the app. Then in some part of Australia, in a college, they were using an app called Conserve AR, where they were trying to create awareness among students about the different species that were near that college. And what they found out was that the children, that the students were not just uh, aware of the different species, but suddenly they had more observations, they had um, more empathy towards the species and also towards the environment that they were part of. Third thing that I found out was there was a lot of information, right? Like if you ask me to read something which is not necessarily my field, um, I will be scared of. Like this is what also happens, right? That if you're trying to show someone that, hey, you know what, I'm building this app, and if you show them code, they'll be like, oh my god, that's so huge. How am I ever going to do that? But if you like show them that, okay, fine, this is what you're going to achieve by coding that, then suddenly people are interested. People are like, okay, fine, I want to do it someday, right? So that was the whole constraint of it, I think. So we were like, okay, fine, we don't want to do too much of text, we don't want people to make fill in too much of questions, because then they will lose interest, and we somehow need to create the empathy. So this is what was the learnings we gained from our research. And then yeah, Limno happened. So this was something that I made last month. So we were working, I think I was working over 12 hours a day, and we made this app. So the goal of Limno is that we want to build a local community of involved and informed citizens who contribute to lake health. I think the first time I used the word citizen scientist in one of my conversations with one of the community builders, they thought I was working with scientists, and uh, I had to portray it this way, and this is how I like to put it as well. That, hey, you know what? We are going to transform local citizens into citizen scientists. So it's a community where you come, you learn about the different lake science components, and then you give back. Then we I think we wanted to provide a place for interactive learning and that empathy that people were gaining from AR. We wanted to create a platform so that there is the community is involved in contributing to data for lakes of Guwahati. So something that was also something that we had also observed was that while going through the research, we found that some of the apps in the US, they had they basically showed that, hey, you know what, if you go to this water body, this is fit for swimming, this is fit for drinking, or this is not fit for human use. And we were like, we don't have this kind of data. Why can't we create something like this? And obviously, like, when you talk about data of such numbers, then we are not looking at one person creating this data, right? So we wanted to involve people in contributing to this data. So the forms that people were filling in, that would go to researchers, and then this would create the database for lakes of Guwahati. And yeah, I mean, we wanted to make a hub for bills and pukuris of Guwahati. So bills is the Assamese term, like the local term for wetlands, and pukuris is the term for lakes in Assamese. So yeah, okay. So like there are four essential features of Limno. So we provide like a 3D game for um, learning about the different animals that are present in the wetland. Then we provide a section of aquatic plants. So here on, it's essentially a list, so you can just click on the list, click on the card, and then you can view the data uh, of that plant. So what we have done is, instead of bombarding people with a lot of information, we have taken like few selected bits of information, and we have just told them that, which is sufficient for them to know. So right now, I think we have around 35 species. There are, by the way, the wetland that we have targeted, there are over 260 species for plants. So we took 32 of them, and we took their pictures, and yeah, we created this database. Second section is of the citizen science. So in citizen science, what we are doing is that we have four sections. So like I said, say no to large forms. So we have divided the questionnaire into four parts, and it's entirely based on your visual analysis. So there's no involvement that, okay, fine, you have to go and measure something, you have to have some device to report data. No, it's just based on whatever you visually observe. So there's one section for general feedback, that, hey, what is the other lake that you would like to cover? If we monetize the lake visit, would you like to pay? What is the amount that you would like to contribute for the lake? Then the second section is on invasive species watch. So invasive species are essentially alien species that don't necessarily belong to that ecosystem, but they have been brought in. So since they are not naturally part of it, what happens is that there is no consumer for that invasive species. So in turn, because there's no consumer for invasive species, they end up sort of finishing up the all the nutrients that is available to the wetland. And because they grow so rapidly, the light is not, the light never reaches the wetland surface. The oxygen level is decreased, and this in turn leads to the death of a lot of biodiversity components of the wetland, and suddenly your wetland has turned into land. I think, in fact, the point is that a lot of people don't know that we have lost a lot of our wetlands due to invasive species. A lot of people think that, you know what, the government is dumping soil so that it's converted into land, and that's for the betterment of the mankind. But what they don't know is, it's not the government, it's actually these invasive species that are sort of killing the wetlands here. So yeah, and then third is on lake health reporting. So You can just mention that, okay, what is the color of the lake that you're actually seeing? Do you see any dead animals nearby? Do you see any illegal encroachments happening? And last, and this is one of my favorite sections of citizen science, is, this is your app, so give us your data that you would like to that you would like to be there. Like, I think when we were making this app, we were using a lot of pictures that were actually collected by us, or that we had to find on the internet. And I was like, hey, you know what, being from Guwahati, it's really shameful that we can't create it ourselves. So this is for all the photographers and all the people who keep a deep interest in lakes, to share what they see in lakes, or to share the world from their eyes, so that, yeah, we can build the app. Another section I forgot to mention about the citizen science is that whenever someone submits a form, we were giving them badges. So I think, like I spoke of that, like I spoke of that, like I actually spoke of that. Yeah, that, we were making people fill forms. But what was happening in the other apps was that people fill their forms, okay, it's done, but they never get to know, okay, whatever form I've submitted, is the data valid, or am I getting some reward for it? So we just introduced a few badges. For whenever people submit a form, they earn a badge. So that was sort of like gamifying the whole perspective of giving back to the lake science community. And yeah, like, this is, I think, the eye catcher for Limno. So here, what you do is, essentially, we have like a trivia question which you need to fill, and then you can place the AR animal in your home, or if you're visiting the lake, and then you can view the details of that animal. And this is in the form of a quiz. So currently we have like 10 animals in our app. And like, this is a picture which is, like, the elephant is, it's really of great importance. So the place that we were targeting, right, like, the wetland that we targeted this app for, a lot of elephants have lost their life, because that this railway track actually crosses the elephant corridor. So I think over 20 elephants have died in last 1 year. And yeah, and I think, this is a very powerful picture using augmented reality, that you're showing that, hey, you know what, don't really do this, because uh, there are other parts of your world who are losing out their lives because of your activities. So yeah. And yeah, I think it's just the three of us who have made this. So Astha was part of building the 3D models that we see. Something that we tried, I mean, it's not really possible to mimic the entire animal, so we just picked the key features, and then we built the AR models for the app. And then Sudeshna was here um, for the day, like, for creating the content. And yeah, and I sort of built the platform. And these are, so we have opened up the app on Google Play Store for open testing, and the project is open sourced on this link. So this is what we have essentially created. There are around 10 people who are using this app. Some of my friends in Pune are also using this app, and they are like, okay, I never knew this was so interesting, and I wish biology was taught to me this way back in school. So yeah, and I think there's a lot more that we need to do for Limno in future.